Oh, we're in luck. Yes, we are. Yeah. Got some live paint here. Gotta try to, get it across. And then, like that. My name is Jared Scott Owens. I'm a visual artist. My practice is still developing. I'm incorporating found object. I have a background in ceramics and assemblage and some installation art. I went to prison for conspiracy to possess narcotics, cocaine. Life in the federal prison was like waiting at DMV with stabbings in between. It was like my 5th year. I was walking through the rec yard and they had a ceramic program there. I mean, I remember that I did ceramics as a child. It was my first love. So I started going in there. I got the ceramic bug, which is a weird bug to get, but the ceramic bug is good because it's very Zen-like, so to take your mind off of your situation. So I needed that, and then eventually wound up teaching classes and taking over a lot of responsibilities inside the ceramic room itself, teaching other guys throughout the years. Well, I segued into painting because I always painted too. I had an easel in junior high school and high school, and then I started really looking at art in magazines, and I said, you know what, I need to paint. I understand the language, what it takes to do it, and I didn't have the material to do it, but I could visualize what it was to paint. How art helped me in prison was definitely a coping mechanism, but it was also an exercise in seeing what I can get away with while I was in there. I always need to feel like I'm breaking the law for some reason, and art made me feel like I was breaking the law while I was in prison without really doing anything that's gonna get me in big trouble. Even making pieces inside, anything that was made to me was valuable because it was creativity in a place that was supposed to oppress you. That was the thing that kept me going, was the challenge to say, hey, I'm gonna make it through this part of my life, and I'm gonna get home and I'm gonna have a practice. I studied like a lot. What paints are made out of, the materials, what the masters painted with, what they had, what they didn't have, the first cadmiums when they were on a canvas, like who was the first one to do that? Like I was interested in all that. And that kept me going. So in this jar is soil from FCI Ferriton. This is a peanut butter jar that's sold in commissary. I would just clean these out. I would go to the yard, I'd scoop up some dirt. It's a pretty soil. Like, this is the soil from like that part of New Jersey. And it's unlike the soil here in New York, believe it or not. It's got a different color to it. I was looking for a conceptual, physical element from inside the prison that spoke about everybody that's inside the prison. And this is the only thing I could find that had the DNA, the blood, sweat, and tears of every, person who ever came through the prison was probably in this soil from the weight pile. So for me, the idea also, it came from watching Saving Private Ryan when the guy was taking soil from all the battlefields and sticking it in his backpack. And this is kind of like the same thing for me, there's a finite amount of it. I'll never go back and get any more of it. So for me, it's a precious material, and I actually cut it with sand. Like this little bit that's left might make it into like 15 paintings. It's ever present. It's in all the work. So the other thing that I incorporate into my practice is I call it the carceral palette or the prison palette, which is the hues are usually cadmiums, Indian yellows, just really dull colors. But they're bright, but they're dulled. The only place you're gonna find this palette is inside prison. It's just I'm an antenna. So I grab things out of the way they feel. So like the work behind me is titled Nemesis. I don't really do figurative painting, but I like this one because I did it by accident. And it's got everything that I love. It's just a loose painting, and it was a painting I did during when we had the upheavals because of the George Floyd killing. The bricks that are inside this dumpster, they're really over 50, 60 years old, maybe even older. They don't fire them like that anymore, so it's a To me, it's a material that's valuable because it can't be replicated. And as far as applying it to a carceral aesthetic, I mean, bricks are used to build buildings, and unfortunately, some of the buildings that bricks build are prisons. And yeah, I just wish I can get in here to grab some of them. Civil Arts Residency decided in its second year to incorporate individuals that are affected by mass incarceration, mainly formerly incarcerated artists. We have 3 slots open every year for people who fit that criteria. And this first iteration of that is artist Jesse Crimes, is also my good friend. Mary Baxter is also my good friend. And Russell Craig, also one of my good friends, all formerly incarcerated, all in the nonprofit world, and all making contributions to end mass incarceration. Now I'm into these found objects, and they're everywhere, you know. I see beauty and I see a carceral aesthetic in a lot of these objects. Like, I get a lot of feedback on the work, and there's really, I don't try to message in the work, but people extrapolate messages from the work on their own, and that's fine with me. It's fascinating to hear people, to have subject matter that's really dark and then present it in a way that is more palatable to the eyes and to the senses, but it's still dark subject matter. The first time I saw this piece was in a reclamation yard, and the reclamation yard is in wine country in the North Fork of Long Island. So I'm assuming that somebody had in a winery, they commissioned somebody to build this thing and then store wine in it. The bottles would have went this way. But when I see it, I see cells, I see tears, I see prison, I see a carceral aesthetic that I just can't escape. It looks like it was designed as a prison. I never really I just think about my practice as it's just going. I don't really think about past, present. There's no linear aspect to anything that I'm doing. It's kind of like a lot of happenstances in the work, and I'm just going with the flow. I don't have a calendar that says I want to be at this point, where will you be in 5 years? I try to live every day as if, what am I doing today? I might mess with this today. See what comes of it.